All right. Another Friday. Good to see everybody. Good to be here. Let's get this thing in motion. All right. Let's see. How's everybody doing? Another Friday. It's Friday.
It's Friday. It's Friday, Craig. What's up?
That's the homie Craig in Miami.
What's up, Craig? It is Friday. It's your day, my boy. Hey, Reese.
All right.
It is Friday, and it is Found Her Friday.
Yes. Hello there. Hello
Found
there.
her.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my
This
gosh.
is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is my first time going live with more than one person. This is so cool. This is
It's nice, right?
Yeah.
It's starting to feel fireside chatty. That's what it's starting to feel like.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's good. It's good for us because like we've been the most stealth people on planet Earth the last several years, and this is a really good, spot to pop up, have some great conversations, learn, grow, expose some things, and especially like when we're talking about amazing women in the business world that are ramping up fast and doing some really, really dope stuff.
Yeah,
why not? Why not get on here and
exactly
and let that crack wide open?
And that's why we changed Founder Friday to Found Her Fridays.
I love that.
There's so many brilliant, women in leadership. There's so many brilliant women-led startups. There's so many brilliant women solving problems for women, which unfortunately is new, but also solving problems for everyone. And to solve a problem is one thing, but to do it, with care and sustainably and having a different thought process and how, to be completely honest, we failed a lot because we have not had women in leadership. Let's just keep it real. So, it's not even about giving flowers. It's about doing what's right. And we want to be better. We want our products to be better, function better. We want to be taken care of. We want, our skin to be better. Speaking of that, we have a brilliant founder. I found her on Friday, Camille with Seaspire. Camille, thanks for being here.
Of course. This is a great opportunity to share a little bit about our story and be featured on this platform. So many great things are happening for us or to come this calendar year. And so I'm just excited to start priming the masses on what's to come.
Amazing.
No, that's amazing. So I guess I can break down the format. It's open-ended. This is our office hours, but we typically bring folks up and pull them into conversation, and we're incredibly excited to dig in and really bust some brains open with some of the amazing advanced and also just like home impacting work that you're doing, Camille. So just for the benefit of everybody who is following along with us, can you start by just giving us a brief introduction of yourself and tapping into a little bit of why you are where you are? Like what's making you wake up and do the work you're doing?
Yeah, of course. So to everyone in the audience live and might be watching later on, I'm Camille Martin. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Seaspire Skincare. We are a early stage biotech company that is super obsessed with creating products that are safe for all people and the environment. And so for us, our story starts very, very early on in the greater Boston area. I was a PhD student at Northeastern University, and my professor and I, we were able to identify a new class of ingredients and have been working since to demonstrate that they can be utilized in a wide range of consumer goods, specifically focusing first on skincare and how this new material that is inspired by natural animals such as octopus, squid, and cuttlefish, how we can be inspired by their chemistries to create goods that can address some of the chronic and cosmetic skin conditions that people of color are facing every day. And so that's what motivates me. I could say we have the impact potential to be able to bring to market something that has never been brought to before, in a way that can address issues that are common and really big to us on a day-to-day. So I could say the experience to building the company is driven by our potential and our passion to be able to really produce something that can be utilized across the board and can address a lot of people's problems. So that's my motivator.
That's amazing. Camille, I got to ask a question that I don't think I've asked before, but what drew you to studying the octopus? Like, how did we, I mean, it takes whatever, that was your thesis, correct?
Yes, yes. And I can say there's no straightforward answer, meaning I didn't grow up being obsessed with cephalopods or anything like that. Really, I went into graduate school with this idea that I wanted to work in some capacity to learn analytical methods that will allow me to have employment in the cosmetic industry. So I wanted to learn skills that would help me get a job. While I was there, I started in a totally different research group. And when I had started studying, there was a pivotal moment in my experience as a graduate student where I had to make a decision if I was going to continue on in one project that was going a little bit more into, I would say, plant functionality and not necessarily application, and make the decision if I was going to leave the program or move to a new group. And so at that point, I had started interviewing other professors who were a part of our department. And I found my co-founder, Professor Layla Jaravi, and she was focusing on cephalopods. And so her story kind of begins a little bit before mine's, where she had this desire to create materials that were inspired by natural animals and organisms. And her species of focus was the cephalopod group. So it was more so her focus was on cephalopods, and I joined the group. But our passions were aligned in regards to how we wanted to position the material to be a new ingredient in the skincare industry.
Man, for those of you that are joining, we're here with founder Camille from Seaspire. And, you know, just to catch you up, she studied the octopus and is now creating a multi-billion-dollar biotech company because of that. Just to, you know, make things concise.
Long story short. Yeah.
That is wild. So.
Yeah.
No, you know, so we can't avoid it, and you know, largely it's something to talk about and to kind of rip the Band-Aid off. But you know, we know the facts around being a woman founder and operator in the corporate world. We know the funding statistics. We know largely, you know, category wise, you're in a space where there really isn't as much representation from a leadership standpoint as there could be. Kind of talk to us about how it feels and kind of what's keeping you sharp, endeavoring into a space where largely, you know, there is no story but your story, in terms of, you know, the basis for what you're doing, and also compelling people to believe that you're the person to lead this thing into the future.
Yeah, I can say it is something to step into so many rooms, so many conversations, because granted, you know, we're still in navigating pandemic, whether that's physical rooms or Zoom rooms, where I'm speaking on behalf of our corporation and being the only person of my demographic, whether it be age, gender, or cultural. representation, right? And so for me, there's so many different factors that I'm trying to navigate as I'm pushing the company forward. One thing that I can say that has been instrumental was being surrounded by the best players in the industry, having a very strong mentor network
Message.
that is really uplifting me and preparing me not only to think of through just the presence, but thinking through the operations that are necessary to be successful. So really equipping me with the tools to be able to play in the space. So one thing that I can say about our team structure is very diverse, not only in the makeup of the type of people. So it's very diverse in regards to there's lots of women on the team, but also diverse in age and experience. So my background is I have a PhD in chemistry, but our team is full of clinicians who are dermatologists as well as former pharmaceutical representatives and executives. We also have people who play in the space of celebrity makeup artistry and creative direction from the fashion industry. So it's such a multifaceted, diverse group of individuals who are part of this process, and being able to leverage our networks and our experiences as a whole really enables me to feel energized and equipped to be able to navigate a space where there's not many stories to lean on to say like let me just follow a path that someone in a similar position has done. It's almost like we're cultivating new experiences and new journeys. And there's a bit of responsibility that comes with that. Like for me, I think, while I might not be the first or the only, I do believe that I'm going to be someone that can unlock a lot of opportunities to increase the numbers of leaders who are stepping into this industry, that are stepping into these positions and allowing us to be able to really acknowledge the fact that just because you come from a certain demographic or your experiences may be one-sided, that the opportunities that are out there for you are unlimited. And so being able to really just encourage and to not only encourage people to take the step forward, but create opportunities, whether it be within our organization for jobs or some type of partnership to enable that growth in others' careers as well. So that's what I'll say about that.
No, that's major. I think there's a really unspoken part of what you're saying about your team and the surrounding network of people that you have resourced yourself with. So many founders that we've worked with over the years have come to us with this, this sometimes hostile belief that their idea and the thing that they've assembled together is magically going to make its way in the world without conflict or constraint. And we're seeing in the most pivotal sense that relationship has become the grounding of how you map your way to getting the product on Target's shelf, or you map your way to getting some investment dollars circled up, or even further into the space, the individuals that you surround yourself with being a degree of separation between the connections that you need or require to accomplish the thing that you're doing, which is the most possibly underestimated thing that you will go through, the thousands of people you have to meet, or the millions of conversations you have to have explaining your journey from Octopus to ingredient to whatever else is next in the horizon of what you're building. So I think that's so exciting to hear it in your words described that way, because somebody needs to hear it. Somebody needs to understand it from you in that way.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I really appreciate about what we're doing, the three of us in this moment, is I think the keys to wealth is obviously it's cash, right? It's investment, but it's also information at the same time or before most. It's education on the information that we're given as a people, and it's proximity. I think the most important is proximity, and what we get to do, what you get to do with those that are believing that venture is not for them, and then they see someone that looks like them, is you're creating proximity. Like, my daughter looks at you, that's proximity. You know what I mean? So it's very powerful. And speaking of, just the journey and taking the steps, you received grant funding to do your research before you kind of stepped into the venture space, correct? How important was the grant funding for your exploration phase? How important was that for you in the journey?
So actually, I'll say that as a PhD student, our research was covered by grants, but to really spin out the company, that was solely supported by VC dollars. And so for us, we had a little bit of a non-traditional pathway to our initial investment, meaning when I was still a graduate student, I was meeting a lot of VC funds in the greater Boston area. And we were just a venture at this time. We did not have an entity formed. We were pitching on these ideas of new materials inspired by sea organisms, hence the name Seaspire, and how this would revolutionize consumer goods. And so there was a lot of interest while I was still in graduate school. So much so some investment funds were like, you know, the typical founder story is, I was a graduate student and I quit my PhD and I started the company. But I was so committed to finishing school. I kept saying, okay, like that's really great. And I think it works for some people. And I don't want to take away from anybody's journey. But my journey is going to look a little bit different. I'm going to finish school. I was really committed to that. And I think it was so important because the work that I was doing was just furthering to de-risk the technology. So we need a little bit more data in order to really justify the leap. And then really quickly, I defended my dissertation in September 2019. I took like 1 month off. And then in November, I pitched to the first fund that we had. Like our first pitch, we got a deal for our investment. So it's it's very like non-traditional. And I would say, great, that's a great story, right? But then I've been fundraising for our seed round. That was our pre-seed, very early funding, less than 1 mil, but still significant because we were able to raise 600K, and then with additional grants through different government agencies and other CPG partners, we were able to get a total capital of 1.1 million within our first year of operations. But I could say our initial fundraising experience did not translate to our second round, which is what I've been pushing for the last 12 months, is being able to secure the next level of funding. And it wasn't the first meeting, was the next check. In fact, I really realized that there is a significant inflection point that is needed to occur between each stages of the company, and learning through finding the right groups that can understand the business, that support the founders, that are interested in where we're going and how we're growing our technology. Finding that right pairing for the groups has been really, really essential in the process. So I can say while it's a lengthier process, it has been really meaningful and valuable for us to be able to select the partners we want to grow with. Because while it's capital that's exchanged, it's also relationships that are developed and people who are partners to growing the organization. So we didn't want to just jump into bed with just anybody, you know? So I could say that it's been a longer process, but it's been something that has been really enriching and fulfilling. And I'm really excited about the people that we've been able to attract along the journey.
Camille, you're breaking through so many myths.
Let's break it down.
This is a lot. I mean, you know, your second or third life, you will be talking all over the world, because one of the myths that you straight up broke is in 2018, there was a study that showed that if a white man can go a white paper napkin idea and take his tour of Silicon Valley, he'll walk out with 1.2 mil. But if a black woman with a revenue generating company does the same thing, she walks out with an average of 36K. And the first thing that you didn't do was feel like you needed to build anything. You literally pulled up pitching your research.
Conversational.
And you weren't even expecting to be funded. I remember when we first met at the Venture Noir event that you had job offers because you had just graduated with you know, companies in line with exactly why you got into the program, skincare companies. And then you had this research paper, nothing generated revenue, no user, consumer. You just had this research. And I just want to, you know, talk about that journey. When you walked in the room, did you care? Were you nervous? Were you like,
Yeah.
everybody here is asking for stuff and I just want to, you know, talk about my research?
Yeah. What is the function of discussing research? How does that go? How does that process go?
So I can say, like, very, very early on, my intro to entrepreneurship was through the National Science Foundation Innovation Club program.
Yes,
And
sir.
my mentor, and I could say he's still like my coach to this day, he he's one of the directors of a venture angel network in the greater Boston area. And so within the first 2 weeks of getting in the program, he invited me to one of their pitch meetings, and I was one out of like 4 women in a room of like 100, and I was the only Black person there. And I was I was going to say very young, but I was younger than I am now. And I was really, really intimidated. I was like, oh my gosh, like all these people have all this money, and like I can't believe I'm here. And I was a little bit intimidated, but I saw people pitching and talking about their research, and I was really, really like excited, like, wow, I hope one day that I can be in a position where I can pitch and have a presentation like this. And I talked to my mentor. He was like, you're already there. Just say what you believe this could be. Talk about what you know and what you think it can be, but don't let the fact that you're just an early stage venture limit your discussions. People are really interested in what you have to say. You have a unique technology, a really unique story. You should share it. And so I think being in that room, that first initial thing kind of like eliminated any kind of concerns I had after that, because I was like, okay, that was like really intimidating, but I did it. I was there. I made it through that. Now I was able to talk to people that day, and they were really welcoming and interested. So I was like, okay, like, what's the worst that can happen? I was a graduate student, so it wasn't like I was looking for a job at the time. So I was like, let's just see. I'll just talk to people, and what's the worst that can happen? Like, I have to graduate and get a job. Like, I think I was like way more interested, or like less like worried about the risk, because I didn't see any risk. I still had to go to school. So I still like, I didn't feel like I was like gambling with anything. So I would go to people, and I was like, I remember very early on, we thought that our technology, and we still believe that it has the potential to revolutionize sun care industry, but in a different capacity than what we're actually pursuing to date. But I remember very early on saying, like, we are going to disrupt the skincare and sun care market. We are going to do X, Y, and Z. And just saying, like, this is why we believe it. It has all of these great functions. And I remember some conversations, I had just completed one experiment that had positive results, and I went to a meeting. I was selling those results.
Wow.
And then after that, I went to my co-founder. I was like, okay, like, this is really good, but we need to do more work to be able to substantiate these claims. She was like, okay, like, it's fine. Like, we'll just keep going. I was always like, okay, like, it's not true, but I wish I had a little bit more information to stand by it. But I also hear the similar stories. People have blanket napkins and are saying anything. So if they can say anything, I can say anything. A lot of times after those experiences being in those rooms, I said, like, yeah, it's a lot of like white men running these things. I am a white man, for all conversation's sake. Why not? Like, what is it that, like, a lot of times we try to limit ourselves? Oh, I'm the only woman. I'm the only Black person. Oh my gosh, am I supposed to be here? I don't think I can be here. Nobody else is around me. I think for me, when I go there, I like, look, okay, you could survey the room. Okay, you are the only one. Got it. Now what? You are here for a reason. What can you do now that you are here? I got invited here for a reason. So I want to maximize the opportunities that I have, meet as many people as possible, and try to learn from them. Like, what is that gives these individuals the confidence to be able to speak on behalf of their ventures and their companies? And how can I apply that to my strategy? Because essentially they have a great idea and I have a great idea. So I don't want to limit how I'm describing it based on ceilings that I'm placing on myself. So I think I was just younger, bolder. I think nowadays, like, that I have like a company, more people that I'm responsible for, I'm a little bit more strategic in how I describe what we do and how I operate.
Absolutely.
But I could say early on, I look back today and I think, like, wow, I'm so happy. I'm so proud of that girl. back in 2017 who was brave enough to just go out there on an idea and pitch it and just keep pushing things forward. And I think that might have been something that got our initial investors excited about what we were doing and excited about the company, because I was extremely passionate and I really did not see any limits or anything. I mean, granted, there were things that we could learn.
Yeah.
I imagined that we would evolve in some capacity, but I just didn't see a way that we could lose. And still to this day, I don't see a way that we can lose. I say, like, any L that we might face is not a loss, but a lesson. And so for me, I just really, really apply that to just our growth and how we're going to be able to evolve and pivot as necessary. But I think this is something where I'm so like obsessed with, I believe in so much. And I think that's what allows me to still stay energized and I'm willing to go up against some challenges that may come, maybe some resistance from different parties, whether that be partners or investors, but to keep going. Like, everything is not good. Every conversation doesn't lead to an investment. Absolutely. But that's okay. It can lead to, like, what is it that is holding up the decision? Like, what are some things that I can apply to growing our organization, developing our technology? And some things are just not a fit for a fund's philosophy or their interests. And that's okay too, you know? So it's just been a great learning throughout the journey. That's all I'll say there.
No, I think that's amazing. Your posturing, and this is what we tell people through our programs at the studio, is that it's much easier to like navigate and wiggle through the holes when you represent yourself as a researcher. And that's whether you have a PhD or not. Like, if you present yourself, you discuss what you're working on in the form of a researcher, things that you're discovering, things that you're exploring, what you're incredibly excited about, it allows people to start to get on the journey with you, right? Yep. To see themselves in the story and not to see you as being progressed so far along that they can't tap in. And one of those is like the inflation of titles. When people show up and they're a startup and it's been less than 6 months and you're a CEO and we look at your LinkedIn, you've never been a manager, you've never been a middle executive or executive, and you're claiming this title, then now we're getting caught up with the kind of the place and context of your use of this leadership term instead of focusing on what it is you're working on. So if we can focus on what you're working on, you have exuberance, excitement, you're backing that up with results and explorations and discoveries, then you get to the place where you started a company, that audaciousness never goes away, but you're learning to channel it for specific and strategic outcomes. Like you said, it's I want to, you know, connect with this person for no reason whatsoever, because I know and understand that they're part of this network at Stanford, you know, folks that work in pharmaceuticals and clinicians, things of that nature. And I think just by being proximate to those people, I'll have access to another group of folks that can really make what we're doing shake. And there's really nothing more magical than that, just that open-endedness of kind of what you're posturing.
Yeah, I just love the fact that you walked in, you know, to the pitch and you weren't saying like, look at me, listen to my story, listen to my problem, which that is the basis for a lot of solutions that we use today. But you came in and you said, don't worry about me, look at the research. Like, let's all be in awe of the research. So you completely removed gender, you removed ethnicity, you removed, you know, social classism, and you were like, forget who I am. Like, let's first look at, you know, the data.
Talk about the topic.
Oh man, that's, you know, that's incredible. So,
spinning back, Devon, you know, we want everybody to know we're here talking to Camille Martin from Seaspire, amazing founder on Found Her Fridays. You know, it's been a lively conversation. Camille's been breaking down her story and some of the misconceptions largely most of us have about this journey of startup building, startup creation, and forming a business that, you know, it's not as scientific as you might believe. It's the process of connecting and building relationships and being that early Camille that was audacious and bold and ripping to it to express the things that you were convinced and largely, you know, a believer could be possible, could happen. I wanna see if we have some questions. Folks want to throw some questions for Camille. I don't want us to hog all the questions.
I mean, I would like to hog, but I feel like we should do this again and talk about. There's so many different aspects to what you've built. Camille has built a what we all believe to be a multi-billion-dollar biotech company based on research from the skin of an octopus. To create, initially a skincare company. So maybe on the next one we can talk about the products. But your like journey to where you are right now, we ask a question and you're dropping so many gems every 30 seconds that we can literally write a chapter in a book from. So if there's anybody again that wants to ask questions, I mean, Camille went from a research paper to now $1 million in funding, and preparing for a launch at the end of Q4. And as everyone can see, she is us.
Yeah.
And we are she. So if there are any questions, please.
Go ahead, Camille. Sorry.
I was gonna say that's what's really important is like there's so much to be said as we're focusing on increasing numbers of Black students who are studying STEM professions. That's one really great initiative. But one thing that's next needs to be being able to empower and enable these technologists and these researchers to imagine that the research that they're developing can be translated into really successful technology businesses. For me, I think that's also something to be said. Is like, first thing is overcoming that hurdle, getting into the field, but then also understanding that there's opportunities out there for you to be able to really navigate transitioning your research from that bench into a commercial space, and that there are resources that are available. Granted, there are challenges that everyone is going to face when fundraising, but as we talked about before, it's like being able to have the data up front, being able to showcase like this is something that is super valuable. You can get caught up into what I look like, what I'm deemed, but you're going to miss out on a huge technology opportunity, investment opportunity, if you get hung up on that there's so much more to us as being Black founders than just being Black. It's also about the companies that we're building and the industries that we're revolutionizing and our unique solutions to problems that people are facing across the board, whether that be from consumer goods to even logistics. There's so many opportunities for innovation that if we just allow ourselves to dream and imagine and taking that leap, I think it's totally worthwhile. And so I just want to encourage anyone who might be in the audience who's thinking about it to really start, making those moves forward, that it's worth it. While their numbers are not large, being able to play the game helps increase those numbers. And that's how we can uplift ourselves and our communities, is playing into the game, being there and supporting each other. And so that's why it's really good to have a conversation with both you, Devon, and Miles, because you guys have this funding opportunities where you can outpour into founders who are really, I like what your hashtag is, wildly underestimated, right? And I think that's something that I'm really looking forward to demonstrate it. Underestimated, but really overperforming. Underestimated, but it's going to be highly valuable. Underestimated, but like someone that is going to be highly disruptive. So I think there's so much to be said about our potential and what we're going to be able to do as companies that are growing and that are really pushing the envelope, and that it's worth it. It's totally worth it to start the journey.
Yeah. No, for sure. And that's why we believe so much in frontier technologies. Is it's not as distant as people like to believe. It starts with a simple practice of discovery. And then just to cue to one of the questions that you got, the diversity in your team, you spoke on how did you originally build this team, and kind of talk about how when you're building in harder technology spaces, how that team comes into play, how that team formation was so important.
Wow, this is such a great question, because I love to share a little bit about our story about building the team so far. So I'll say that thinking about the opportunities for our technology in the skincare space, I imagine that it would be really, really great to have some relationships with the clinical professions, so dermatologists. And one of our very first advisors was a serial entrepreneur. Her name is Dr. Yael Swartz, and she had worked on developing 3 companies that had developed technologies in the derm space. And so utilizing her network, we were able to pull in other advisors, the former president of the American Academy of Dermatology, Dr. Daniel Siegel. From there, we were able to bring in former pharmaceutical executive, Dr. Michael Burns, who had over 30 years of experience bringing new ingredients, new materials, new therapies to these populations. And so for us, it was leveraging those networks. And so thinking about not only like the functionality, so being able to be either academic, dermatologist, or even scientists, but also leveraging different points in people's careers. Some were later careers, so they can speak for many decades of experience, how technologies have evolved, and really almost be like an open book in a library. You know, we can start from ground one, but why start from ground zero when we can leverage the experience of these veterans? So I can say on one side of it, it was being able to bring in key opinion leaders and experts in the field into our team. But then on the in-house team as well, we were really strategic of how we were building out the team. For me, I, being an alumni of a National Science Foundation Innovation Corps, I also had relationships with the GEM Consortium, which was a program that supports Black and Brown engineers and scientists who are going through graduate school. And so I did a few talks where I shared about my experience, and in the audience there would be some graduate students who were interested in entrepreneurship. And when we put our first posting for a job, someone who was in the audience and had been finishing up graduate school reached out to me, and this was super dope. A Black woman engineer, and she had degrees from Georgia Tech, from Tufts University, University of Cincinnati, and so I was able to. Yeah, so many degrees. And I think it's really important to mention, because sometimes people think when building diverse teams that you have to sacrifice on the quality of your candidate. But that's something that I never,
say it again.
Wanted. Yeah. I think that that's something that's really important, is being able to find out that there are many organizations of high performing, high quality, very experienced individuals that can service your industry. And it doesn't have to be there's only one, here and there. There's many. And so for me, I wanted to tap into these organizations for my recruitment strategy. So looking at National Society of Black Engineers, National Organization of Black Chemists and Chemical Engineers. So being able to find these diverse groups of individuals who I knew they had our skill sets, and we can pull them in. So that's how I found my first full-time hire, my formulation chemist, Natalie Cox, who really, I would say, accelerated our development in regards to our product development. Another key hire for us came and was supported by the Massachusetts Life Science Center. So this is important to mention, is not only being really strategic in your recruitment strategies, but there's also funding opportunities that are there in place, whether it be on a statewide or national-wide ability to support diverse candidates. And so for us, there was a program that was specifically for HBCU students who were living or from Massachusetts. And I was able to hire in our first summer intern that was a Black a student from Spelman. So another Black woman in the STEM profession. So for me, very early on, I wanted to look at these diverse areas, look for people who were interested in the field, but then find out different strategies to support them, so that it's not just a sacrifice, whether it be on our side in regards to the quality of candidates, or a sacrifice for the participants or the individuals joining our team in regards to salary. We want to be able to still be able to support people. I don't want people to feel like, even though it's an exciting journey to be a part of, that they are sacrificing their livelihood to be a part of this. I want to make sure that I'm able to support our team adequately, and to be able to make an infrastructure to grow the team. And so
Mm.
being able to have these individuals as our first hires was really, really key. Now we're expanding to, and I know when I say this now, it's like, okay, all these women, all these Black women, yeah, that was important to me, because when I looked across my office and there were other biotech companies, there was no one like us. Like, there were times where Natalie, the people were saying, "Oh, hi, Camille, how are you doing?" Because I was the only Black person in the office prior to her coming in. And it's like, how can we change that? Like, I wanted to change that. Oftentimes when you look at other companies, no one gets like probed for being able to hire only one demographic of person. So for me, I thought it was really important to shake things up. Now looking at the next phase of our organizational growth, we'll have other people coming from different industries, different age groups, different cultural backgrounds, and so even different genders. We're going to have some more men involved in the process. And so for me, I think it was really something that I'm excited about, because being able to really work on this project while we are positioning this in skincare, and a lot of our initial target is going to be women users, that we can hear a lot of voices, whether it be, it doesn't have to be just a woman only team. It doesn't have to be just a Black owned team. It could be diverse perspectives, diverse opinions, and also operating is not limited to any demographic. So I also wanted to make sure that that was really important and shown in our team structure, that it's not just going to be a one type of person in our company, that we're really going to be able to leverage the opinions and expertise from a broader group. And so I'm really excited about the new people who will be joining our team as well. But I encourage everyone who is involved in hiring to think about, strategically being able to find those candidates, because they're out there.
Yeah.
And they're ready. And so just being able to find them is what's going to be key.
Yeah, I was on Fox Business News last Friday, and that was part of my discussion, is that there's this myth about talent, whereas there's more so an infrastructural issue with how capital descends from its larger holding structures. So we've never had an issue with talent, and especially like as a Black PhD, and Devon and I were both academic researchers, being in those environments where we know we're like a split percentage of the total pop. But if you just address it from like how many people are they actually, couple million folks, brilliant folks moving around here, can do some really critical work, have been always a part of taking us to space, advancing materials, improving supply chain, and doing all the things that need to be done to advance the society. But I had to settle this with myself, and my wife kind of helped me with this commentary, was that 99.6% of people don't know what we're talking about right now. And how do we bridge that in a language and also in a way of familiarity that can expand to a place that they know? And I mean that in like the most sophisticated folks that are deploying capital, as well as the everyday person that's walking the street. There are some really fixed bubbles in terms of where advanced technology or the things that undergird the society actually have competency. And the internet is a perfect one. One of our early investors, we ended up in a 3-hour argument because I explained to him that millennials, from a kind of point of phenomena, don't understand what the internet is. And I wasn't targeting millennials specifically, because I think I could use any generational demographic. But I explained this premise of people not knowing what the internet is. They think it's like running water, or they think it's like electricity or something else. And it's actually just the state of computers talking to each other, and nothing more, like nothing more complex. So when everybody's like, the internet's down, no, the internet is not down, because computers can talk without your Comcast, Xfinity, AT&T. Computers can always talk, but is the backbone that connects you to the next city over, the next state, that infrastructure is internet connectivity, which is a whole different part of that structure. So I think that's a really important point that you were making, is that you kind of I can have my cake and eat it too, in a sense. Like, I can have diversity, I can have advanced talent, I
Mm-hmm.
have a sophisticated track record in my team, and I'm not cherry picking out of a mystery bag.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, these people exist and they do great work and they're ripping up the scene, but they're severely undercapitalized
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the companies, their initiatives, their efforts, and I'll go as far as say even as academics, I know for PhDs and faculty, their research is not largely being funded on a scale that it could be, because in that world it relies on relationships and influence on the endowment and other outside parties too. So that influence of where dollars flow still come back into play.
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, no, that's amazing. I really like that question, Reese. I hope we answered that for you. And if anybody else has any more questions, this is Camille Martin from Seaspire. Really exciting and activated founder that we enjoy supporting and working with, and hearing all her amazing updates is just such an amazing time for her and her company. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to throw them in the chat. If not, like to Camille, kind of tell people, uh, you know, if you're hiring right now and what roles you're looking at, or if you're looking at interns for the summer coming up,
Mm-hmm.
as well as how people can stay in contact with you, or if let's just say they know nothing of what you're speaking of and they're really coming at it dry, like what is the best way for them to familiarize themselves with Ceasefire and all the things that you're doing?
Yeah, that is a great next question. I would say we are in such a great dynamic point of our company. We are growing. We're actively recruiting for our director of product development to
Mm,
join our brand team. We are in the process of gearing up to launch a direct-to-consumer line highlighting our hero ingredient, xanthochrome. And
mm,
so that's going to be something that we're really excited to continue to work on, and we're actively hiring for that. So much is coming out. It's going to be a great next couple of 3 to 4 weeks for us. So I would love for everyone to stay in tune with what we're doing. We have our social media presence is at Seaspire Skincare on Instagram, and on Twitter at Seaspire Skin. You can also follow myself, Camille the Chemist, on Instagram. I would just encourage everyone to just stay on the pulse, set your notifications, because we're really about to blow up in a couple of weeks. A lot of exciting announcements are going to be coming out for us, for our team, but we're actively always looking to be able to find people who are interested in learning more about our journey, supporting us, whether that be joining our team, being able to learn a little bit more about opportunities for partnership. This is something where the conversations are ever open and evolving. So feel free to reach out to me on any of these channels. And I would say follow us also on LinkedIn for our latest posts. We're going to be growing our organization tremendously in the next couple of months. And so very, very excited about what's to come this year.
no, for sure. And I continue to be excited about the fact that you're delving into such an advanced space, and we want to see you win. We're really incredibly excited about everything that you're doing. And there is no end to the resourcing required to build the massive company and massively impactful company that you're forming. And so, I think that folks should take it as a lesson that the journey isn't one that has a predefined final destination or finish line. It's the steady work that you have to do every day. And maybe that's a good question, is kind of talk about like
Mm.
what is the irrefutable kind of like speak that you have with yourself, or conversation you have with yourself, that allows you to wake up and do this work? Like, what is that? What does that sound like? And if it's personified in a voice, kind of tell us, more about what that is for you.
The main thing that I think that keeps me going is knowing it's a marathon and not a sprint.
Yeah.
So being able to know that each day we can push forward and we can make progress. Like I said, every conversation with a potential investor or partner may not lead to a deal, but
Mm-hmm.
putting ourselves out there, continuing to share the story, being able to create those relationships will continue to advance us. And so for me, what's really important is to always acknowledge that we're still making progress. Every study that we do, everything that we're collecting, whether this be on really granular data for our technology, or even consumer information, that we are still pushing forward. For me, it's like not getting caught up in just being like, we need to be at a certain point by March 2022. And if not, it's over. Being able to be really adaptable to the process, being able to understand that things take time. Like, this is a process, like whether it be from investment, whether it be hiring people, hiring the right team, being able to push our product development forward, navigating uncertainties, such as navigating supply chain challenges or manufacturing challenges, just being adaptable and being able to evolve as things come is something that keeps me going. And also just being so obsessed with this industry and so obsessed with our technology is what I can't let it just go. I can't just let it die. I have to keep pushing it, keep nursing it, keep continuing to grow it, and understanding that every day is not going to be a great day, but every day that we can still work on this is a blessing. Like, for me, like my biggest dream for so many years, I would say probably like up like the last like 3 years I've been working, 2.5 years I've been working at Seaspire. Of course has changed, but prior to that, I just wanted to work at a multinational a cosmetic company. That was like my biggest dream. And recently I started to switch this story to say that was my dream, but now I'm creating a multinational cosmetic company. So being able to just be able to sit in that and know that, like, even I for so many years had capped myself on what I thought was my greatest achievement, to being able to understand that I have the opportunity to cultivate a company and a culture for where people are excited about the work that they do and that they want to do the work, and that it's super impactful across the industry, is something that keeps me going. It's like remembering the purpose, why we're doing this, and the impact that it can have, not just for our end users, but also for our team members and those partners who support us on the way.
No, that's so major. That's so major. And I think that pivot of language of wanting to be somewhere and building the place to be is so important. And it's you can't let it go. Like the grasp that you have on that, you can't let it go. And also I think part of that puzzle is being willing to go to the destination that takes you. And Devon and I have had that conversation as investors and researchers and company developers, as this idea that what if we've done all this work for going on 6 years to end up getting a really amazing position at a TPG or KKR, right? Would that be in vain? Would the example of our work, our proficiency, the ingenuity that we've developed, the things that we position in the world, the programs that we've both created ourselves and also supported to matriculate diverse people into the venture and startup world, how can that be more impactful? And that kind of talks about too this idea of a lot of folks in this space coming into venture and startups have this notion that they should never sell their company. And it's probably like one of the things that like eats me the most, because especially when you're dealing with investors, the posture of not selling requires you to have such an unfair advantage in the market and this belief of monopolization that 99.9999% of companies will not be afforded in their growth and life cycle. And how are you greeting the possibility of the work you're doing right now being an amazing platform for a larger enterprise, a larger business to further, and the opportunity for you to do this again and over again and master the kind of like the multi-hyphenate sense of serial entrepreneurship? Like, what is your feeling on acquisitions and like building all of this for what? Like, what does that make you feel?
Yeah, I always say that Seaspire is my first company and not my only
Mm,
company. So that's something that I always maintain as I am pushing this forward, which is why I think I have such a teachable, coachable, and learning appetite towards building this company, because there's so many things you don't know until you experience it. And
mm,
so for me, throughout the process, even being at this later stage and going through this first price financing, which is what we're navigating now, being able to think, oh, what if I had known what I know today 2 years ago? And how can what I'm learning now prepare me for the next step is
yeah.
something that I always keep as I'm going through each phase of our company development. And I think, yeah, saying that if someone is like they never want to sell their company, they're almost like putting a cap on what they might be able to, how they might grow it, or
Yeah.
thinking about it in a different way. And so for us, I really am just focused on the innovation that is
Mm,
that's possible with our technology platform, and then thinking about how can we really maximize our impact and distribution. And so that might be something where it's growing our team to be able to service global partners, or it might be
mm,
partnership or merger and acquisition. It's like being able to think about what is most important for us. It's about
yeah.
being able to innovate and to make sure that we're sharing this across the board to as many users as possible, and thinking about how do we accomplish that. And so that's what really drives me when I think about how we grow and develop our technology, and not getting stuck on just like it has to be our this team, this structure forever, and just thinking about how we can leverage what we're learning about our technology to grow in the next phase of the company, but grow as leaders as well. So I guess
Yeah.
that's a little bit way of how I think about it.
Yeah, no, that's really great. No, so I think we've done a really good hour here, and we're so excited that you were able to join us today. I kind of want to wrap and give you a floor to have a final speak, but first I want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story and being transparent and vulnerable with everything that you've gone through to build Ceasefire with your team, and that process of continual growth and continual learning. We really appreciate you and your existence, and want to magnify the work that you're doing in any way that we can. And I just want to leave kind of the last words to you, if you have anything that you want to share or any last statements you want to give to the folks that's following along.
Well, I will say thank you to everyone who joined today, all the questions that came and the supportive comments. I'm really excited, like I said, about what we're going to be doing this year at Seaspire. I encourage anyone who's interested in following along our journey to follow us on Instagram at Seaspire Skincare. You can follow me at Camille the Chemist. Also follow us on LinkedIn. There's so much that we're going to be announcing in the next couple of weeks that I'm just really excited to share with the masses. So I would just say stay tuned. Thank you again for having me on your platform. This has been so good. I always love to share a little bit more about our journey, how we got to where we are, and really just prime everyone for what's coming in the future. So that's where I'll end it. But yeah, I hope everyone has a good rest of the day. Stay safe and have a great weekend.
All right. Happy Founder Fridays, folks. Found her. And thank you, Camille, again. We'll be seeing you all next week, and hopefully we'll be bringing on a new and interesting person for you to hear from and learn from, as we kind of pull back the lens on, startup foundry and venture development and all the things that fall there within. Hope y'all have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
And bye.
See ya.